welcome to this exhibition at the National Football Museum about my life. I feel honoured that you are able to share in my memories, and I'd like to thank all those who have helped to create for me a life in football that has been truly remarkable.
Hi, this is Ryan Giggs of Manchester United. Welcome to the Sir Tom Finney exhibition at the National Football Museum.
Goes to Tom Finney. He draws the defence and passes to Medley. The Spurs winger sends over a beauty. Bailey gets his head to it and England are level.
One of the greatest players I've ever seen, and I remember the first time I actually saw him play was a little lad in Newcastle, and my brother and I used to go and watch some teams when they used to come, if they had really good players. It had to be that because it was very expensive. And but I remember going and seeing Tommy Finney, and I couldn't take my eyes off him. He was just mesmerised the fullbacks, and that's something that stuck with me for years and years. And then eventually I managed to get picked to play for England, and I knew she'd be playing on the left wing, but Tommy Finney. And near the end of the match, we were leading 3-0. And at the end of the match, he did what he always did. He dipped his shoulder and he went past the fullback to the dead ball line, and he just chipped a little pass to me, and I volleyed it right into the top corner. And Tommy, the goalkeeper, actually, funnily enough, came and congratulated me. It shows you how times have changed. He congratulated me and said, "Well done, your first international cap," you know. And that was Tommy Younger. But my main thought at that time was not that. It was that Tommy Finney had crossed the ball for my first goal, playing for England. Ryan Giggs is a little bit like him, you know. No, he was quite unique, really. Tommy, he was up and down. He had this little shuffle that you would recognise as soon as you saw him play. He was just an unbelievably gifted footballer. I mean, really gifted. Not only that, he scored goals that were at important times. I never really saw him until the end of his career. To think what it must have been like when he was about 19 or 20 must have just been sensational.
I've seen interviews where Sir Tom has mentioned me, and for me that's a great honour, because obviously he was a great player, a legend in the game, and obviously played a similar position to me as well, and like to play the game like I do, take players on, get crosses in, score goals, and entertain the crowd. So I mean it's obviously great when Sir Tom mentions me, and I'm obviously immensely proud of that.
Appropriate, he's the last man. He's getting the cheers of his teammates. What a moment this is. The Premier League trophy is staying where it belongs. United are the champions yet again.
He just had this exceptional ability, balance, speed, control, knowledge, an ability to turn at tremendous speed without losing the balance, and I think that was his real big secret. Also, he was a wonderful header of the football. Not many people speak about this, as he could come out of a ruck and be right at the top of his head, and it was in the net. And it's terrific, and that's why he was good when he went to centre forward. He was possibly the best centre forward in the league at that time, after playing on the wing for those years. And of course he played on both wings for England, as we all know. And on top of all that, the most wonderful man you'll ever meet, certainly in the game. And I met a lot of great players and played with a lot of great players. But Sir Tom tops a lot, there's no question about that. That is not Preston bias, that's a professional opinion.
Well, I remember, when Gary Peters had the job before me, Sir Tom used to come in and see him. And then when I got the job after Gary, Sir Tom used to come in on a Friday, we'd have a cup of tea, we'd talk about the game. And it was terrific, because there's a lot of people now outside the game who, talk badly of it. Sir Tom never talked badly of the game. He had a great knowledge as well. He was up to date with modern technology, things that were going on in the game. And I just found him a pleasure to speak to. And as I said before, to have a chance to speak with Tom Finney, you just don't get those moments. So I've always felt very privileged to have been given that opportunity.
Tom Finney was playing against you, you were in trouble. The whole thing with Tom Finney was his ability to play. Take people on, beat people, and doing everything I wouldn't like to defend against. He just went past them. Don't know how he done it, but that's how he used to do it. Obviously dribbling, and he had ball control and things like that. So he was top class, and no question about it. Well, I would think Stanley Matthews and Tom Finney were the top boys, wingers, in my time.
When I first came to Preston, I lived next door to Tom, so we got to know all the family and everything. And he's a smashing bloke, really, and an excellent, one of the top players in the world. And I was lucky enough to play with two of the greats, Stan Matthews and Sir Tom. So I was lucky, fortunate. And that was the only reason I came to Preston, actually, because I'd already played with Tom in a Football League game, and I knew I couldn't go wrong playing with Tom every week.
You sometimes hear, like the great Bill Shankly, talking, and the comparison between Stanley Matthews and Sir Tom Finney. That was always the comparison, and even Shankly turned around and said, well, for me, it's Finney any day.
And from my point of view, he was just a genius. There was nothing the lad could not do. He could do anything. Left foot, right foot, head the ball, beat people, score goals. Wonderful. He's the best player I've ever seen.
I remember once he'd been out injured and the Daily Express came to do a feature on Tom, and there was only me, Kenny Hayes and Les Dagger available in the afternoon, so they asked us if we'd sit on a bench while Tom lapped the track, and they took some pictures. And then the following day, or the day after, it was headlines in the Express at the back. There's a picture of me and Dagger and Kenny Hayes and Sir Tom training, which was great, but I never thought any more about it. And then about a week later, Tom approached me when I was going in for training and said, I wondered if you'd like that, and he gave me a brown envelope. And it was the actual picture from the newspaper which he'd sent him, and he'd signed it for me. So that's one of the most treasured possessions I've got, yeah. I'd obviously like to have played a bit more with Tom, but now he's no different now, and he treats you exactly the same as he did 50 years ago. And that, says a lot about the man.
Obviously, he was a marvellous footballer, but I think as a man and a gentleman, he's got an air about him that, even like I said, when I shook his hand today, there's a certain sort of air about him, which is great to see. But obviously, to be mentioned sort of in the same breath as Sir Tom is very proud for me and my family, when I'm back home, and because I've only ever seen videos of him, and he was a brilliant player, and as you say, world-renowned ambassador of the game. So to get mentioned in the same breath as him is an honour.
Tommy Finney was everybody's idol, including mine, and he's the best player I've ever seen. All these things that's running about now, I don't think they could hold a candle to Tommy. And he used to take plenty of stick, and always dropped on the ground or whatever, but picked himself up and carried on. Whereas loads of other players, they get the same knocks and what have you, and they used to play act and all that carry on. Something that Tommy never did,
To play with Tom Finney was an experience that if you haven't done it, you can't appreciate what a player he was. He was fantastic. In those days, there was always a debate going on, who was the better player, Matthews or Finney. And everyone that asked those questions, trainers, players at that era, every one of them said Sir Tom Finney was the greater of the two. He played 5 positions for England, all across the forward line. Outside right, inside right, centre forward, inside left and outside left. He scored 31 goals in 70 internationals. Matthews got 3 in that period. He would have got 100 caps but for the war with Tommy. But what a player. A gentleman, fantastic. I don't think he was ever booked in his life, but what a player. It was an honour and a privilege to play with Tom.
Way back in the winter of 1962-63, it was one of the coldest winters on record, and it was at that time that the football pools came about establishing a football pools panel who predicted the results of games that were abandoned, postponed, and as a consequence, within that time, Sir Tom Finney, or Tom as he was known in those days, was one of the original members of the pools panel. So in the year that we've relaunched the new football pools, we've merged the brands of Littlewoods, Vernons and Zettas to become the new football pools, it seemed very appropriate for us to go right back into our heritage and support Sir Tom Finney, who was one of the original members of the football pools panel, and now it's great for the new football pools to be supporting the exhibition.